What is up, gamers? It's your boy The Goods, and we are back for episode number 12 of Narcissu Second. In the last episode, we did something. I'm going to be honest with you, it has been at least a month, probably, since I fucking recorded this, so let's get back into it. Burning sunlight and the pouring of cicada cries. Pitch black shadows were right underfoot. After having overslept, I was now headed to the usual place. The elevator's bell rung. Morning, you're here late today. Morning. Getting off the elevator, I exchanged light greetings with the nurse I'd become acquainted with. By now, even if I enter the 7th floor, no one challenged me. Maybe, at this rate, I too might become a person of this place. When the thought suddenly came, I was afraid. Continuing down the white hall, I headed to the now familiar room of Himeko-san. I knocked lightly on the door. I'm coming in. And when I went to Himeko-san, who had probably been waiting. Books, perhaps. Spread atop the bed, thin volumes that Himeko-san gazed at. What those were, I didn't know, but that face was different from her usual bright expression. Oh, Jesus. Say, what are you looking at? Maps. Maps. With just that answer, her gaze once again turned to the pages. There was an expression I never saw before, a lonely yet also somehow calm expression. It's interesting. Not particularly. It's boring. Her words said so, but her face wouldn't turn this way. And even though she said it was boring, she just continued staring with a lonely gaze. Then you don't have to look. Even as though I thought that, or even as I thought that, I gazed along with her. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Spread atop the bed, the maps of some place. On them were a number of large highways and roads, places with unfamiliar names. It felt like a slight to Himeko-san, who continued gazing, but for me, I couldn't find enjoyment in doing this. It must be boring. It's fine, even I think it's boring. Then why look? Indeed, why look indeed? Even as she answered with that, Himeko-san continued to gaze. If Himeko-san herself didn't know the reason, then there was no way I could understand. While thinking that, and just when I thought she would remain that way for a while, she slowly murmured, "But you know, this isn't something you need yet." That means someday I'll need it? Who knows, that also might depend on you. Occasionally, Himeko-san spoke as if she could see clearly to my thoughts. There were also times when she would suddenly toss out words like Zen riddles. What those were aiming at I didn't know, but for some reason, often I would wind up nodding. Hey, Setsumi, did you know? If there were a place that you wanted to go to, how much of a budget do you think would be enough? I don't know. At the sudden question, I answered honestly. I had never thought about such a thing. According to my calculations, 50,000 yen. That much? No, you shouldn't think that. Saying it the other way, with only that much, you could go anywhere in Japan. Even hearing that sum, to me it meant nothing. Also, I couldn't see the intention behind letting me hear it. Perhaps it simply meant that for Himeko-san, she had a place she wanted to go to. And someday I too would have such a place born within me. Perhaps she also wanted to say that. Well, why don't we go for ice cream again? With that, she folded the maps and stood. I've got to have my temperature taken, so go on ahead. Leaving Himeko-san, I waited for the elevator. All around, I could see the pajama-wearing people at the 7th floor. These people, I wonder if they have a place they wanted to go to, just like Himeko-san. Or perhaps people of a certain age, from having already given up or taken more of a philosophical view, maybe they don't think about such things. Setsumi-san, may I call you that? You were definitely the helper. Yes, I've been assigned to the 7th floor. It was the helper who had spoken to me before. The other day, Himeko-san had been speaking with her, and said she was an acquaintance. And about Himeko-chan, about One-chan. One-chan? With that word, I could make a guess at how things stood. Before Himeko-san said she had once been a helper on the 7th floor, that her family was Catholic, and she had also participated in public welfare activities, then for this younger sister to be a helper here in the same way was not surprising. And was there something? I was wondering if Setsume-san was forcing herself to be together with her. Not particularly, nothing like that. Then that's fine, but before, she had been a cheerful, kind One-san, but saying that, she sadly lowered her head a bit. Certainly, I also had a similar impression when we met the other day. At the least, her behavior towards this kind-looking younger sister, I thought seemed very cold. However, towards myself, there was no need of the had been. Even now I believe she was kind. Chihiro, what are you doing? One-chan. I've told you before, didn't I? If you got the time to chatter about unnecessary things, you should be paying proper attention to your assigned person. I know that, but if you're also a helper, then take your duties seriously. Let's go, Setsumi. Speaking unilaterally and then leaving her sister there, Himeko-san quickly walked ahead. Even as I felt somewhat bad, I followed after. Again, today sitting facing each other, we ate vanilla. Sorry about that, letting you see something weird. That person just now, your younger sister, yes, that's right. While speaking, Himeko-san began eating her second ice cream. Beyond that, it didn't look like she was going to say anymore, but I wanted to know about her behavior just before. Without a doubt, she was worried about Himeko-san. Say, why so cold? Do you mean about my sister? I gave a small nod. It was Himeko-san's own sister, and as someone who had been the same kind of helper before, I thought she would understand her feelings. It might not have been something an outsider should be interfering with, but still, I felt the younger sister to be unfortunate and was sorry for her. Even though she's such a kind and good person. Indeed, it's because she's a kind and good person. I don't really understand. It's okay, because this is something you don't need yet. I'm home. Welcome home. The preparations for dinner are just finished. You must be hungry. With a nod, I handed over today's empty lunchbox. Here, eat lots, okay? On top of the dinner table were a number of dishes, and as always, the fried things from the part-time job. Here, I fried some again. With that, she offered the plate of fries. Their slightly fat slicing was a distinctive feature. But today, the hand that held the plate was different from before. Mother, your hand. It's nothing. We're using oil after all. Mother answered cheerfully as always. But those were the mark of a burn? It was slightly red. Before, while beautifully painted with manicures, Mother would show them to Father and me with pride. At that figure, happily excited over the small thing, Father and I would look at each other and give a wry smile. And when she got a strange color, even while saying I was 10 years too young, she had painted my nails too. But now it was different. The pink manicures had faded, and in their place were the slightly red skin of roughened hands. Why they've become that way, the reason was easy enough to imagine. For whose sake they've become that way, that didn't even take imagining. And exactly because of that, it was painful for me. It tortured me. What's wrong? They've just been fried fresh today too, you know. That isn't kindness. I recalled Himeko-san's words. I felt that I understood. Betraying good intentions or being silent with lies were both wrong. Say, Mother, what's the matter, Setsumi? They're delicious, you know. And since I've been assigned to fries, your mother's skill seems to have gone up some too. With hands that were different from those days, but with a smile that was unchanged from those days, Mother happily offered the fries. In front of such a mother, I could do nothing other than quietly eat the fries. If I were to say the truth here, if I were to truly apologize, the person who was punishing us, that person out there somewhere, would they relent? A few days later, with the sun shining directly overhead, I headed to the usual place. I had heard that this summer was a cooler summer than average, but it still seemed like it was going to be a hot day. Good morning. Setsumi, I've been waiting. For some reason, Himeko-san was waiting in front of the hospital. The courtyard again? Nope, that's not it, but anyways, let's go. With just that, she quickly started to walk towards the outside of the hospital. Wait, where do you plan on going? Didn't I say before? The remaining 3 things. Remaining 3? At first I couldn't remember what she was talking about. You mean those 10 things you wanted to do before dying? Yeah, you see, this is one of those remaining 3. There's something I wanted to go and check out, you see. As she spoke, Himeko-san continued walking. Already, she was quite a ways from the hospital. Just how far do you plan on going? Pretty far, even by train about 2 hours each way. And the doctor's permission? Of course none. I didn't really understand it well, but even if it's Himeko-san, she was a resident of the 7th floor now, and I had the feeling that just up and leaving the hospital going that far wasn't allowed. It's fine, you don't have to make such a worried face. Well, if I'm caught outside, I'd pretty sure they'd get angry, but well, they'll overlook things just a bit. After saying that much, she started walking again. Maybe she was being serious? Clearly, if you kept going this way, you should get to the train station. And then, there was one other thing that nagged at me. By the way, you're going in that outfit? I raised a simple question of how Himeko-san was dressed in pajamas. At the least, to ride on the train, I thought it was a bad way to go about things. Of course. Just like this. Just like this. You're not going to change? It's fine. This is my uniform, after all. The sun up above cast short, dark shadows. And on heating of the midsummer morning, it was a lightly stepping Himeko-san. A while after, well, even saying that, only 5 minutes of walking around with the number of people walking in the street slowly increased. I wasn't too familiar with things, but it seemed she was headed towards Station A. Certainly she had said it was 2 hours each way, but just how far was she planning on going? In just that amount of time, riding on a train, it felt like you could get quite far. Say, from the station, where are you headed? To the ocean, to be exact, where the pineapple trees are, I guess. Pineapple trees? Words I wasn't familiar with. I didn't know pineapple trees existed in the first place. They're always in front of large buildings there. The trees are called phoenixes, right? I know those. Those, don't you think they just have to be pineapple trees? Indeed, they did look very similar, but... So don't you want to try cutting one and checking the inside of it? Hey, if they really were pineapple trees, it'd be huge. Was she being serious? From a common sense standpoint, it has to be a joke. But with Himeko-san simply being as she always was, it was impossible to tell. What? What's with that face? Are you making fun of me? It's not that, but I don't think it's possible. Bah, for being Professor Croquet, you sure are narrow-minded. Everything should be tested empirically, right? Being a professor has nothing to do with it. And if we're looking for phoenix palms, the hospital has some. They're everywhere. Nope, if you don't test a much bigger one, it's not fun, right? I didn't really know how serious she was, but together with Himeko-san, I headed towards the station. Finally, we were just about to reach the station. Never mind that it was 10 minutes. Walking under the blazing sky was unexpectedly difficult. I had thought, it seemed Himeko-san's pajama-clad figure stood out, and people walking by glanced at us. Say, we're really going? Of course, it's for that reason we've come all this. Hide! Suddenly, Himeko-san went behind something. Before I knew it, I was also holding my breath in the shadow of a building. What's wrong? That is a doctor from the surgical ward. And over there, the 4th floor chief nurse is there too. And as she mentioned it, there were faces I recognize. I see, people working at the hospital commute from the station. Ahaha, at any rate, they'd find us and get angry. Himeko-san laughed in a carefree and sunny way. There was no sense in planning or anything else. In any case, surely she'd been a helper before. And she didn't know this? Well, my house is in the neighborhood. I'd never come by train. Same for me. But yeah, they wouldn't just add in rules for show. Rules? Nothing. It's got nothing to do with you. And what now? Well, obviously we'll try again next time. Quickly the decision came, even though she'd been so determined to go until now. If she really wanted to go, if it was after the morning rush ended, then it would be even easier riding the train without being seen. Maybe she hadn't been serious to begin with. The sun was still high, and around now the shops in the marketplace were opening up. Well, since we've come all this way, let's make a detour. As she spoke, Himeko-san wandered among the shops along the street. Looks like even though she gave up on riding the train, she didn't intend on going back to the hospital. Helplessly, I obeyed and followed after. As always, because of her pajamas, people would glance over, but it seemed that Himeko-san herself didn't mind one bit. And then her feet stopped in front of one storefront. Ah, those clothes, they're nice, aren't they? She touched a number of clothes decorating in front of the shop. But they were all frilly kinds of things. However you looked, they were meant for cute girls. They didn't really seem to fit Himeko-san all that much. You like these things? As if, I don't have such girly interests. As I registered what she said, she had spread the clothing in her hands before me. Yeah, it suits you, Setsumi. Me? Well, you're always in sailor uniform. You see? But I thought that maybe this sort of thing would also suit you. Hey, should I buy this for you? This one piece? But you don't have to be polite. It's a present from Mone-san. I don't want it. Would have been a lie. For someone who only had a single sailor uniform, it was a very tempting proposition. And Himeko-san's clothes? I don't need them. This is my uniform, after all. With that, she pointed at her own pajamas. Then I'm fine too. Oh, it's not like you have to go along with me. See, you can still choose. When I wanted to reply, I swallowed my words. It was said in her usual bright tone, but the words can still choose. At that, I realized the very heavy meaning in her words. No, I'm fine. What a pity, and I thought it'd definitely suit you. Well, if you change your mind, just say. I'll buy it for you any time. After that, we wandered in front of the station for a while. Ate ice cream together, then headed back to the hospital. As we found similar clothes in other shops, she continued to say she'd buy them for me. But in the end, I kept refusing. The daytime had been so hot and hazy, but now in the huge sky, the face of the moon peeked out. As usual after eating dinner, I returned to my room and relaxed. By the window, washed and drying on the hanger, was the sailor uniform. While gazing at it, I suddenly thought about the time I had gone to school. Right now my health was good, so one could forget, but in reality, I was someone who was admitted in and out of hospitals. Already, over 2 years have passed since I've been away from that place called school. In that time, I hadn't once thought about wanting clothes other than pajamas. There hadn't been any pressure for such a need either. But today, just a bit, my heart swayed. Perhaps it would have been better had I admitted I wanted the clothes. But Himeko-san herself was stubbornly in pajamas, being the only one to get new clothes made me feel bad. Besides that, no matter where Himeko-san was in her pajamas, she was dignified. Compared to that, I always felt somehow sorry. Like I'm somehow doing something embarrassing, I can't help it. Or maybe, Mother, who had stopped getting manicures and reddened her hands, or Father, who continued on long commutes in the same suit. They saw me happily wearing cute clothing, perhaps to both of them it would be a happy thing. But that, for me, I think would have been difficult. More than saying I hate fries, it felt that difficult. Alright, that was longer than expected. I don't think I'm going to be able to clutch this one in enough time for it to be under 30. And I think, there's like 18 parts? There's like 18 parts, and like halfway. So I'm going to go ahead and end this for now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!